Hi, I may look very similar to the last video because I'm making this one right after it as the other one didn't upload, and I want to stay on track with this for you guys. So where we are tonight is actually not the first chapter yet. It's the how. So it's 23. Page 23, and it's how to use this book, Getting Our Bearings. And this is kind of a short section, and a lot of it I think is not really needed to be talked about. Please go through and look at it and use the content there, and I think there is a lot that's useful. But what I want to bring out tonight is what came through for me, which was the importance of realizing that we're reconnecting not from a place of fixing, which I referred to on one of the early videos, but we're really just clearing a path. We're clearing limitation, we're clearing gunk, we're clearing stuff we don't need from our psyches and our lives so that our intuition can really come through and speak to us and guide us so that we can be guided by our own stars and not the stuff from the outside, or not the past, or not our fears, or not our projections onto other people or onto the future, any of that. We're really just clearing a space so that the real us can shine through. And I think that's really important that it's not, to point out that it's not a forceful doing or trying. It's really more of a sitting back and relaxing and being and allowing that we're going to be doing in this series and in this book. We're going to be putting in place practices that allow. So there's going to be, I hope that's good news for you guys. I tend to be one of those people that has been like a make it happen kind of person, and that served me really well up until a certain point in my life, and it certainly isn't serving me now. So for me, reminding myself that this is a process of allowing and relaxing into and being with rather than a forcing or making it happen sounds so amazing. And I would imagine that a lot of you also might feel the same, and that a restful transformation sounds maybe good to you, like it does to me, because most of us are pretty short on sleep, and anything that requires a lot of effort is going to be like, oh, right, like one more thing. So I really don't want you to think of this series as like one more thing to do. Please, like, grab a cup of, I don't know, tea, whatever feels nourishing to you. Like, grab a cozy blanket and maybe just have a corner where you can sit, or a desk after your babies are asleep, or some place where you just feel relaxed and you can just enjoy this and take it in. Maybe you can even read the book in that spot as well and just kind of go into a relaxed, allowing state, just allowing whatever I'm saying, whatever the book is saying, to kind of come in like this nice warm breeze. And don't worry about, unless you just feel really called to, don't worry about taking notes or really trying to hold on to any of it. What you need will come in and make itself part of you without effort. So I really invite you to allow this process to not be an effortful process. And that sounds so good to me. So this how chapter, just take a quick read. The other thing that I wanted to point out, two things. One is that I pointed out in this section that the power of this book is in the hearing of the inner voice and respecting it. So that's actually such an allowing process, right? That we're actually just going to tune into ourselves and then learn to respect that. And I think those are two very different and necessary parts to really being with your heart and living from your heart and finding yourself or rediscovering yourself, or those two parts. Hearing that, being able to hear that voice, discriminate that from other voices in your head that you might be hearing or other voices from the outside, and then respecting and following that. I also pointed out that the power of the actions in this book is in the consistent and sincere application of them. And maybe that sounds a little bit harsh, but really all I mean is that we need to clear space, and these practices are ways of clearing space. And if we don't consistently apply that, they don't become second nature, and they don't become what we're practicing. We then end up practicing whatever we were practicing before that caused us to be in disconnection or kept us out of connection with ourselves. So like I was mentioning before in a video that I was watching by Bruce Lipton, who was talking about the way we change our programming that has become unconscious, this unconscious script that we're playing out that is put in place before we're 7 years old when we're in theta brainwaves. The ways he says to change those, which are obviously very true, are hypnosis and repetition or practice. So that's what we're doing here. I just want to reiterate that we are opening up space, and the practices that we're putting in place are practices that will keep that space open for us and allow that voice to continue to come through. So that's why the consistent and sincere application is so important. And then the last thing in this section I wanted to talk about is something very simple and basic and foundational, but something that can go awry and the wheels can fall off. At least for me, this has been my experience, that the wheels can fall off fairly quickly and easily. And that's just with the three very basic needs that we have of sleep, so rest, eating, and then moving our body, some kind of exercise. And without those three things, my friend Pepper Vaughn talks about them being, I don't know if he made this up, but 3 legs of a stool. And when one of those is broken, the stool falls over. And I find that to be so true in my life. And kind of the hierarchy for me, they're almost all even with each other, but there's a little bit of a hierarchy, and I feel like it's sleep, food, and then exercise. And so sleep is kind of the foundation thing, and it's often one of the things that really starts to fall apart for us as new moms. However, I did find, being the most sleep deprived I've ever been with Miss Vivian Cease, that my body and brain did start to kind of adjust to that. And I found that if I went ahead with also exercising, even though I was tired, which I wouldn't have done previous to that, if I was really short on sleep, I would make sure that I slept before I worked out. And so that rearranged a little bit for me because I just couldn't get consistent sleep. And I was encouraged to do that by our personal trainer, who said, even if you don't sleep, get up and exercise, because, it's kind of this domino effect, and you can build actually from any of those legs. So what I want to suggest for this video and for you to start doing now with this section of the book is to just look at those 3 things, and we're going to look at them. Well, what I say in the how is that this isn't a book about diet and exercise, and it certainly isn't. And my second book coming out is about diet, but so the book doesn't necessarily go into detail about that later, but I want you to know that I know how important those 3 things are, and we will be consistently revisiting that and checking in on that. So it's not a one-time thing. But let's start out with the best foundation we can here. So just kind of give those 3 things a once over in your life. Look at your sleep, look at your diet, and look at how you're moving your body. And do your best to really carve out a little bit of time for each of those 3 things to be at least 1 to 10% better than they are right now, if you feel like one of those legs of the stool isn't as supportive as it could be for you right now. Because to have as much of those 3 things in place as possible will really be supportive for us on our journey. So we will revisit those, because I think, at least for me, even those basic things often become the challenge. I will often forget to eat. I'll feed Vivi and then just move on to the next thing and kind of forget to feed myself. That's a big one for me. So just kind of give that a once over. And if you want to do any kind of like reminder for yourself on the fridge, one thing I'm doing for the eating thing is now I'm putting out a plate for myself next to whatever I'm serving Vivian, so that I can see, and then I serve us before we start eating, because it's often really tempting for me to just kind of eat at the counter or eat, here and there a few bites while I'm feeding her in the high chair and maybe not even sit down. And I really, really want to both make sure that I'm eating enough, that she's eating enough. So I like to see on the plates, okay, this is what we're eating. It's a good amount. It's good nutrition. And just know that. And I also want to have my eating be a practice. And I have a video on that previous to this series if you want to skip back and check that out. But eating is a practice also, and it can really be supportive of presence and health and togetherness with our babies also. So really, that's been something for me that I've put in place and done some changes on, because it's very easy for me to not do that, and for that to be really haphazard and actually be a practice in disconnection. So that's something I'm doing with food. Exercise is something I'm going to be working on. I've been in and out of having a consistent practice with that. It's been very challenging for me. We've done a lot of moves, and there's been a lot of change in our lives. And so that being consistent has been, like I said, really challenging. So I'm working on that, which requires for me to have a little bit more childcare than I have at the moment, which is kind of nada. So I'm going to be working on putting that into place, having a little bit of time where I can get out to the gym. But even if I can't do that, I am going downstairs and just doing a little workout, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, just something where I'm moving my body or I'm stretching. And Vivian actually loves to do this with me. So I'm really making a commitment at this moment right now to continue that and to actually be way more consistent. Every day I'm going to start doing a little bit of movement, and it doesn't matter if it's a walk, if it's, like I said, coming down and working out downstairs, or if I actually make it to the gym. I love the gym. A lot of people don't. That's one of my happy places where I feel very much at home and I feel very centered in myself. So when I can get there, I want to do that. And then sleep, anything you can do to make your sleep more consistent. If your baby's on a sleep routine, Vivi's sleeping through the night now, and I'm putting her to bed about 7:30. So, and this is really new for us. So, but that's amazing and is life-changing for me, because sleep has been the nemesis for me with this new baby. So that's changing everything. I think anything we can do to improve, like I said, those practices, and really see them as practices, see them as supportive practices that are also going to help clear this space where we're going to feel good in our bodies and be able to experience life in a more optimal way. All this is obvious, but so just take a little bit of time. do reminders for yourself if you want to, if you like to do lists or calendar. If you don't do that, maybe just have some kind of reminder for yourself or some practice in place with each of those three things where we're improving those and allowing that to be better and better for us. And we'll build on that as we go. So much love. And I will see you in a couple of days. Thanks so much. Bye.